I have this dream, I have this vision, but the reality today does not match it. But what baby steps can I take today? Yes, I cannot be that yet. I cannot do that yet. But today, what can I do? What can I be towards the big vision, the big dream, the big goal? So, and there is always something really small you can do today, you can be today, that in time compounds to the big vision and the big dream.
I think that's so true. And I think maybe sometimes we don't understand that it starts with the smallest step. And the smallest step can just actually be putting it in writing.
Yeah.
Just the intention. You know, there's this notion that things are created at least twice, first in the mind, and then if you're lucky, out into the universe. And putting something of what you had in your mind out in that reality, be it on paper, or even if that's intimidating, maybe just speaking it to yourself.
Yeah.
That already gets things in motion.
Yeah. I like the word in motion. Sometimes all it takes is the courage to set sail. Leave the harbor.
Yeah, make sure your boat doesn't sink. You know, have provisions, a map. But then
set sail, leave harbor.
But don't let that stop you either.
No,
right?
no. And sometimes you just figure it out. You just figure out things. You know, it may not be plain sailing, but if you don't leave the harbor, you never know.
So now, slightly in the opposite direction of the previous questions. Were there any practices that worked in one field, but that you felt really didn't serve you well in another? So it's like the opposite. I was always before building on, here is more.
So that would be a leadership practice, honestly, because for a time, working in the films and creativity industry, I was for a time I was a senior account manager for the EMEA territories, and my higher ups, my bosses, held me accountable and responsible for everything happening in the EMEA territory, even if I wasn't the person directly managing the individual territories. And so that responsibility and accountability was also held to their junior account managers, some of whom I actually interviewed and helped hired to manage these individual territories. So all that to say that it was a very top-down command and control leadership that was modeled in that field. And coming into the church and the community domain, I quickly had to relearn the leadership style that had been modeled to me, because it didn't work so well in that field. So whilst that may have worked well in the corporate field, it didn't work in the community and church field. It was completely leadership lessons route that I had to go.
To maybe narrow it down. I mean, you've already narrowed it down pretty well, but it sounds like as leaders, we need to adjust to the social structure in which we're leading. Absolutely. And if it's top-down hierarchy, you have to go one way. And if it's, let's say, more of a flat network where everybody's equal, you have to go a very different way.
Yeah. I mean, when I say top-down command and control kind of leadership in the corporate world or in most workplaces, it's probably just right, because the motivation in these areas is very extrinsic, meaning people do what they do for external rewards, right? When a company hires you, they hire you for your talent, your acquired skills and knowledge, and for your time. And in return, they compensate you in monthly salary.
Of course, yeah.
Right? So your motivation being there is very extrinsic. And that is the corporate world. But in the church and community field, where most people are volunteering their time, after they've done their corporate high pressured work, then they volunteer their time to come and serve in these communities. So the motivation there has got to be very intrinsic. So you have to create as a leader, and this is one of the things I had to learn quickly and painfully as well, that you had to create an environment, a space where people actually enjoy being there and derive some satisfaction from doing what they do. So it is a sharp contrast to the corporate field, where I don't need to make you feel good about yourself. You're getting paid for doing what you do. Right?
Yeah.
So but it was different. So that would be what I would say may have worked well in one field, but on the other field, it's a sharp turnaround. It's a sharp contrast.
That is really deep. It's not only the social structures in which you're working in, but that afterwards informs whether you approach it with an intrinsic motivation or let the intrinsic salary do the motivating.
Yeah.
It's wow. It's been said that 80% of success in any job, so that's corporate or community based, is based on your ability to deal with people.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
Personally, I think the figure should be a lot higher than 80%. It should be in the region of 90s, because and most importantly, not just your professional success, but your personal happiness as well.
For sure. Well, because that also means being able to deal with yourself, the speaker you have in your head at times, and how to negotiate that person.
Yeah.
For want of a better word.
Because everything we do in life is people. And so I agree with that statement. And so often we don't realize how much we need people in our lives, whether in our personal life or in our professional lives. And the funny thing is, you probably know, or even you yourself have probably left a job, left a position, left a project, not because of the job itself, not because of the work you had to do or the task, but because of people. Many people leave jobs and companies because of people, whether managers, bosses, bad bosses, incompetent managers, or even colleagues, because of people. People leave relationships and whatnot, not because of the relationship itself, but because of people.
No, for sure. No, and it's what you said earlier just sparked a little light bulb in me, because sometimes I think we have this notion of a corporate charismatic leader who can basically sweet talk people into doing his will. And
that's manipulation.
Well, I'm not saying manipulation doesn't have its place.
Yeah.
But what I draw from what you were saying, it's maybe not what you were saying, is that in a corporate environment, being charismatic and sweet talking is probably not a bad thing, but it can only take you so far, precisely because it is mostly fed by these external reinforcing perks and salaries and so forth. So sometimes you shouldn't, and in the corporate world, one shouldn't think of, oh, if I had handled this humanly in a different way, maybe I would have had a better result. But no, in that universe, the human touch has its place, but it also has its limits, and it has to be balanced out with the extrinsic. Conversely, on the community side, there's much more to gain for having an amazing set of charisma, skills, and ability to make people see their, what they stand to gain on the inside in terms of meaning, satisfaction, and so forth.
Yeah, I'm actually glad you went back to that point, because I think I need to clarify one thing. Being charismatic and this people person, as we call it, it doesn't actually get people to do what you want, even in the church and in the community. In my opinion, anyway, it doesn't. And if it does, you're probably compelling people to do things that they probably have not decided in themselves to do. But what I think, or at least what I'm striving to do and to be. So, for example, just a quick example, I have learned to stop wanting to inspire people. And this girl I raised, I don't want to inspire anybody anymore, because that is a burden I don't want to put on my shoulders anymore. Because it's like, I want to inspire people. I want to inspire people. I want to inspire you. I mean, what if I say, okay, you know what? Instead of wanting to be out there to inspire people, I want to focus on inspiring myself. And if I work on being inspired, I may inspire you. And I think that is, for me, at this stage where I am at, is a better view, because I want to work on myself. I want to be better. I want to be a better leader. I want to be a better husband. I want to be a better friend. I want to be a better founder. I want to be better. So if I have this mindset, whether it's in the corporate field or in the community field, that I want to be the best I can be. I'm inspired to be the best I can be. The best I can be, boss, manager, colleague. That will rub off on people in the serendipitous alignment of the universe. You will accidentally get inspired.
The serendipitous alignment of the universe. I love it. I love it. Poet. Add that to your skill set.
But sometimes we are like, we want to inspire this person, want to inspire this person. I think sometimes it comes from just wanting people to do stuff for us, wanting people to do what we want them to do, and wanting people to just, without actually looking at ourselves, say, hey, this thing that I want Gabriella to do, am I doing it myself? This thing that I want Gabriella to be, am I being that person myself? So if I focus on being that, then you'll be like, actually.
Yeah. It's subtle what you're bringing out, but I love it, because, we tend to think of extrinsic motivators as, bonuses, salaries, plaques on the wall, or so forth. But to have a self-image of, I'm a charismatic leader, or I inspire people, can not only be a burden for one to carry, but also an expression of something inauthentic, because the buck stops at the other person's feet. Have you inspired them? Have they been successful? It's outward once again.
And it's also all just like creating this cult followers. It's all being me. It's like you want to be seen. You want to create this. And in this age where the number of people that are following you is all the rage, you want to create this thing where a lot of people are following you and be like, look how many people are following me that I've inspired to follow me. There's a bit of like, subtle selfishness and self-centeredness in there, I believe.
Having said that, if you like the podcast, please like and subscribe. Yes, for our audience.
Yeah.
Because the word needs to get out there somehow also. Maybe going into something a little bit more hands-on for now. So you're currently going through Harvard's MA in leadership. You've been at it for how long now, more or less?
Just a couple of months.
Couple of months.
It,
so very early days. Very early days. Nevertheless, so far, what's been your biggest lesson learned in the first couple of months of the program? What's been the
biggest lesson so far in this early stage is unlearning so many things that I've learned. And just to put it in a quick analogy for you. So I was taught to drive by my brother in the dusty streets of Ghana in a beat up car as a teenager. Then I moved to London, Britain, and then tried to get a driver's license over there. And then I found out that I couldn't drive. I failed miserably the driving test. So I had to go to a driving school to learn and to unlearn some of the bad habits that my brother taught me that I learned in Ghana, to to be passed by a driving instructor. So I had to go to a driving school and learn how to drive before I could be issued a driver's license.
But between us, you think a London driver would pass driving in the streets of Ghana?
I think that's a separate podcast.
Get from A to B?
That's a whole other podcast.
They'd also have to go to school again.
But I think the point I'm trying to make with the lessons that I'm learning at this early stages in my studies with Harvard is there are a lot of things and a lot of practices that I've learned that now I'm learning to unlearn them. Mm-hmm. And I think this is massive because you learn things, you pick up things, you pick up habits, you pick up practices. And some of them doesn't serve you anymore, doesn't serve the purpose where you are at. Maybe it served you last year, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. But now where you are at, it doesn't serve you, but you're still holding on to those practices.
Could you be specific?
I think one of them is what I just said earlier, that I'm learning to not inspire people, not have this mentality of I want to inspire people anymore. I think that would be a really specific example of that, where I just really, really want to be inspired to work on myself, to be better to the people that I've been charged with leading, so to speak. So this would be one of those things, rather than going in with this messianic complex that I'm here to make your life better. I'm here to tell you what's up, how to live your life. Here are the 3 steps you do, and your life, will be magical like that. I think I'm learning to unlearn these kinds of things where I'm like, no, actually, you don't have the answers as to how life should go. But if
you, Robert,
I, Robert,
Gabriel doesn't have them either, by the way. But,
but then if I can work on myself and be better than I was yesterday, then in the process, somebody else will get inspired. So I think that would be a practical example, a specific example of some of the things I'm learning now.
Yeah, because you would think that a degree in leadership would be a lot about projecting onto others, but definitely sounds like you're looking inwardly more, and I can definitely see how that would be a platform from which to be stronger and more authentically you.
Yeah.
So, Robert, I first met you through GQM. Could you tell us what GQM is, so why it's important, and why any man in the Geneva, Switzerland area might benefit from joining? Don't inspire us. Just tell us what it is.
I don't want to.
Good.
I think GQM, it's simply a community where men connect around food, because we love to eat, and just share the road ahead. Because and this is important to me personally, because whatever the path, whatever the journey we on, and we are all on a different path, on a different journey, we need as men the space to build meaningful relationships. I mean, you and I right now, personally, I don't know about you, but I think we have a meaningful relationship.
I agree.
And we met through GQM, and we have built this meaningful relationship in just under a year. So that is why it is important to me. And not just men connecting and sharing the road ahead and building this meaningful relationship, but I also honestly believe that as men, we need a community that is focused on helping one another face the future, face life with confidence and with purpose. And I think you and I have had various conversations at a cafe, and it's been such rich, purpose-filled conversations that, believe it or not, have help rearrange some of the furnitures in my head. And so this is what GQM is about.
Do you have any, well, I'm sure you do. Do you have any ideas or theories why such a space, such a group is more pertinent for men than maybe it is for women?
Oh, yes, because women are just so naturally community beings. They are such social beings. Like my wife hangs out with her girlfriends all the time, and they just talk about everything. They love getting together. Men usually likes to connect and gather around sports or testosterone charged spaces, but to just sit and eat and chat and talk about life and talk about what is really going on, whether at work, in our relationship, in our own heads and whatnot, that takes a lot of effort, and it's very effortless for the ladies. I mean, for example, in my own church community, we have what we call sisterhood. It's like a gathering of the ladies, and when they put an event on, they don't need to publicize it much, and there comes the ladies in droves. And we've tried for years to gather the men, and I'm sorry, but the word that comes to mind is pitiful. Really pitiful. It's not that easy at all to get the men together.
No, I believe you. And maybe this would be a question for a psychologist or an anthropologist, but let's try to delve in deeper. Why is that the case? Why are men not heeding the call or having not gathering as readily?
I think it comes to, again, I'm not a psychologist or anthropologist or anything, far from it, but I think it comes to the question of vulnerability. Women find it so natural to be vulnerable with one another. Talking to their girlfriends about, what they are facing, what they're going through and all of that. And my wife shared a little bit with me as to why that is, but I don't think this is the time and the place for that. But when it comes to men, I think we are very, very cautious, if not a bit scared of being vulnerable. Because if I'm vulnerable before you, it may be seen as a weakness. And I don't know if you're not going to use that against me. So I will project strength. I will project this alpha male. I've got it all together. I've got it all going kind of aura around other men, because you don't want to be the punk, right? Mm-hmm. And think about it. Whenever there is a sports or men are together, some of the things we hear is, don't be a sissy, don't be a little girl, man up, don't cry, don't show emotions, and all of that. So we've grown up, we've been brought up to always project this tough exterior, this tough man, this strong man. So I'm not gonna sit down and talk to you what's really going on with me, how I've had my heart broken. You will laugh. Oh, you got your little heart broken. I'm not gonna tell you how difficult it is at work. You'll be like, toughen up, man. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So this is why probably men don't like to gather together and sit and really talk about what is really going on. And we bottle a lot on the inside. But Gabriel, the reality is, whatever you and I don't have a healthy outlet, and we keep bottling on the inside, it's only a matter of time before something cracks it open. And we usually see this in an angry outburst, in fits of rage, because we've not had a healthy outlet to really bring these things out in the open. And we just keep bottling it up on the inside, keep suppressing it. And it's like a seismic volcano that is just waiting to erupt. And one day, boom, it just erupts. And we've seen this played out even on the international stage, like the Oscars, if you know what I'm trying to refer to.
I hear you. Slapgate. Yeah. But I'm wondering, like, again, just stepping back and from a maybe more historic societal perspective, wouldn't we have developed avenues, pressure valves for these, for men to be able to address these issues? And I mean, I'm just improvising, but I guess something that we have improved as a species about is, in general, there's been a drop in violence, be it warfare, be it criminal violence over decades that's been documented. And maybe in more violent times, it was more functional in a society to have men who had a certain detachment from their emotions, because I could also see how to respond in a certain self-sacrificial, manly way that is necessary at times, you can't have somebody who is deeply in touch with their emotions. It would probably not work. I couldn't see the thousands on the coast of Normandy being men who were very much in touch with their feelings at that time. At that time, what would be prized is quite the opposite. But now that we are in a society that there's still violence, obviously, internationally and locally, there is greater room for and greater necessity for men to have spaces in which they can express these things and come together. And I'm basically saying the same thing as you.
Gabriel, there is this narrative that actually you mentioned. The men who were at the beach, at the Normandy beach, it doesn't mean they still cannot express their feelings. They still cannot be in touch with their emotions, whether in war times. In fact, these are the times that is needed the most. Some of the top Navy SEALs guys will tell you some of their biggest what do they call it, projects or whatever they've been involved in, they were scared witless, right? But sometimes we think when men expresses their emotions and their fears and what they're going through, it makes them cowards. No. In fact, that is courage, because courage is not the absence of fear. Don't tell me those guys at Normandy Beach, when the bullets were raining down, they were not afraid. They were afraid, but they did it anyway. That's true courage. They wrote letters expressing their fears. They talked among themselves how terrible and terrifying the situation was. There were no qualms about that, but the true courage was doing it anyway. So me expressing how I'm feeling about certain things, it doesn't necessarily mean, oh, I'm so in touch with my emotions. And I think this is what we need to address and we need to correct, that me talking about certain things doesn't make me less of a man, doesn't make me a wimp. And in fact, this is what should be encouraged the most. And we've been kind of like shut down for so long. Don't talk about these things. It is what it is. And that is part, if not the biggest part of the problem. We need to, in my opinion, we need to be able to be in a space where, okay, this is how I feel about these things. I'm talking it out to you. It's not complaining. It's not whinging. It's not mourning. But this is how I feel. So, for example, I can tell you, Gabriel, you're my friend. But when you say the things you say, the way you say it, in the spaces you say it, it makes me not feel too good about myself. Right? That's communication. That is maturity. That is courage.
Yeah. No, I think we align on this. The acid test has to be, what impact does it have on action? Like, if thankfully neither of us, or at least I certainly haven't been on a war front, but it's okay to be aware of your fear, but still fulfill your military duty. But if that expression leads to the avoidance of your duty, that's a problem. Yeah. And I think in general, the writ large clamping down on male emotions is for fear of, if if these guys get too in touch, well, then they're not going to do what they should. And what we're saying is that that's not the case. On the contrary.
Yeah. Yeah.
On the contrary.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So the last question of the long form segment. If there was a piece of advice you would like to give your 10-year-old self with all that you know now, what would you tell your 10-year-old self now?
My 10-year-old self had just moved to live with my dad and stepmom and my step siblings. It was a pretty difficult moment. And if I were to say anything, give any advice to my 10-year-old self, it would be that God is infinitely more gracious and infinitely more good than in your wildest dreams, and that it will be okay. Because my 10-year-old self have no hope. If you told my 10-year-old self I'll be sitting here having this conversation with you, it's not something that was conceivable. Honestly, if I look back where I'm coming from, where I was, I would just really assured. It wouldn't be an advice. It would be just try to assure him that trust that God is good. That would be it. Sorry if I got a bit emotional.
No, on the contrary, we were just talking about expressing emotions.
Yeah, well, yeah.
There you go. No. Yes. So thank you, Robert. That's been the long form part of the questionnaire, interaction interview. We'd like to wrap it up with a set of rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Just first thing that comes to mind. Boom, boom, boom.
Okay.
You ready? You game? Yeah?
Go.
Okay. Okay. What's your favorite word or expression?
Hey, Sarah.
What's your favorite sound or noise?
The sound of my wife giggling.
That's sweet. If you were to come back to Earth as a plant or animal, what would you like to be?
Animal.
No, like which animal then?
Oh, which animal? Ooh, the lion. So I can be the Lion King.
Which living person do you admire the most apart from family?
Ooh, that's a big one. My mother.
Apart from family.
Oh, sorry. There's a guy called Timothy Keller.
Okay.
Oh, wait, he just passed on. Oh, I'm struggling. I would say Darius Daniels at the moment.
Okay. Who is he?
He's a pastor. He's an entrepreneur. He's a thought leader. He's he inspired me right now.
What is the quality you most like in a man?
Sincerity.
What is the most overrated virtue?
Most overrated virtue. Self-discipline.
Overrated?
Yes. You want to get into it?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Self-discipline. And the reason I said that is maybe we have learned it so hard and drummed it so into our heads that we think we can accomplish and do everything through self-discipline. But there is only so far self-discipline will take you. Wow. And when you rely on yourself to be and to do everything, and at some point is gonna come crumbling down on your head. It's gonna come tumbling on your heads. Yes, self-discipline is good, but I think is way overrated.
Love it. Love it. What is your most treasured possession?
Honestly, it's gotta be a particular hat I have. Is the same hat I wore on my wedding day.
Okay. So your house is burning down. All the people are out, but you still go back for the hat.
I probably wouldn't. I have no attachment to possessions like that, but because I had to answer the question.
Sounds good. Sounds good. What's your favorite movie?
Man, how you gonna ask me that? I was like,
I thought the Virtue one was tough. Movie? Come on.
That's like so many though. Fine, I'll go with Gladiator.
Good, good. Who is your favorite fictional character?
Maximus Decimus Aurelius.
There you go. I see a pattern. What do you most value in your friends?
Again, sincerity.
And last but not least, what is your most marked character trait?
Ooh, how do I answer this without being pretentious? I would say steadfastness. Call it steadfast.
Yes.
Can't get a word together. Steadfast.
Is that similar to being stubborn?
No.
No.
It just means when I'm with you, I'm with you.
Mm-mm-mm. Fair weather or foul.
Yeah, I just stand with you. Yeah, so steadfast.
That's a great virtue. Well, again, Robert, thank you so much for your time, for giving of yourself, for sharing, for being vulnerable on occasion. Even.
Yeah, it's been great.
Not weak, but vulnerable. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with our audience before we sign off? Any final messages or?
I think one of the questions you asked about dance problems or something like that was about dance, and one thing I want to leave with the audience is related to that. So I've known so many people that said to me, I can't dance. I've got 2 left feet, and so shy and even terrified of being seen in public dancing. So what I did some time ago back in London, I got a few of these people together in a studio for 3 months. And the first thing I did with those people on the first day is took their phones and recorded them dancing. As I said, I played music and recorded them dancing. And then I gave the phone back to them. And then we started a 3-month journey. The only condition was whatever we do at the studio once a week, they practice it at home. And after the 3 months, I took their phones again and I recorded them. And then I asked them to go and look at before and after the 3 months. Now, I say this because the problem that solved wasn't just from a dance and self-confidence perspective, but also a belief perspective. A belief that when you miss a beat or you fumble a step, the music gives you so many chances to recover if you don't stop and keep going. Now, am I just talking about dance? Perhaps, but no, not really. So for the listeners out there, it's the same with life. Be sure you won't miss a step. You will fumble. You will miss a beat. But as long as you don't stop and you keep going, the music, life, will give you plenty of chances to recover.